Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal. And I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David. How are you doing tonight?
Really good. That was, in some ways, it was the most dominating Oilers performance of the year, Bruce. Not by the score. Man, they did not give Seattle anything. The grade A shots were 18-4. Wow. Excuse me, 19-4. 19-4. So this was just a slaughter. The score was 4-2, but the Oilers, the 2 goals Seattle got came on kind of unusually anomalous, egregious errors by the Oilers. The only 2 they made all game, really. And Oilers, they really poured it on this game. Seattle was not close, although they made it close. And the Oilers only won on an empty net goal, but nonetheless.
Score all right. 3 and hang on to win. That seems to be the point. Anyway, they were the better team by a country mile in this game, and Philip Grobauer held Seattle in the game. And I'll have to say that Brian Poshmera and Mitch Dunning did a really good job of keeping Seattle in that game too, because they could see no evil being committed by any of the guys wearing dark shirts in this game.
You almost wonder if how many grade A, if they would have had like their first grade A shot came halfway through the game, and Leon Draisaitl is totally, his feet are taken up from under him in front of the Oilers net, which triggers a odd man rush from Seattle, in front of Edmonton's net. Or excuse me, in front of net, in defensive end the attack end. What am I saying?
Yeah.
And he's around the net trying to score, and he gets hauled down. Just an obvious trip right in front of the official, and no call.
Nope, and one of quite a few no calls in this game. Anyway, low key, it was one of the poorest officiated games of the year for me.
Yeah.
And I say that from the team that came away with the win, but it was like once they got to the lead, it was like there was 2 sets of rules out there, and it's quite annoying when that happens.
They were officiating to the home crowd and to the situation. Definitely. The NHL's known managing the game, they call it, I guess.
Tim Peel approved NHL ref game.
Anyway, great game by the Oilers, really.
They won it. I was swearing 2 good things when Nurse was getting hog-tied, and what do they do when they tie up the rodeo, when they tie up the 3 legs of the steer, leave them lying in the.
I don't know what that's called. Steer
That's
wrestling?
what Montour did to Nurse on the sideboard there, and Nurse is after the whistle goes after Seattle nearly scores. Nurse is going to the referees. What are you looking at? You could read his lips, and it was pretty clear what he was saying, and he had every right to say it.
Derek Ryan took like 15 cross checks in the back in a row, right in front of the ref, and no call in the third. It was
got to be a veteran to get the calls, David. We all know this. That's what they've been telling us for years. You Oilers are too young. When you get a little older, maybe you'll start getting those calls. Okay, well, Derek Ryan, maybe if he hangs on for another 5 or 10 years, he'll start getting those calls. Jeez.
All righty, Bruce. 2 good things, 2 bad things, 2 numbers. What's your good thing, Bruce?
Yeah, real good thing. I'm going to choose of the 2 absolutely beautiful goals in the opening 5 minutes of this game. I'm going to take the second one, scored by Jeff Skinner. But this was really a terrific play by the whole line. They had the pressure on, and Seattle was coming out of their own zone, trying to break out with the puck, and they never made it to center. In fact, they never really made it to the blue line because Kasperi Kapanen was all over the guy trying to exit the zone with the puck and just not letting him have a free ride. And then Derek Ryan, playing in his home state in Seattle, what might be a significant game for him. I have an idea that he came back hard and won the puck along the sidewall in the neutral zone against 2 Kraken. And not only did he win the puck battle, but he actually turned north with it. He was able to start the play and chip the puck back to Kapanen coming up the middle of the ice. And Kapanen held the puck and then just slipped a perfect pass through the defender to Jeff Skinner, who was busting for the front of the net. And Jeff Skinner did what goal scorers do in tight to the net. He didn't panic. When he got his chance to deke the goalie, he didn't, like, as soon as he made his move, try and shove it into his pads and hope it went in. He held it for that extra beat or half beat while he actually was moving away from the goalie's pads and giving himself a little bit of a space to get it up and over. And then, of course, he did exactly that, popping it into the top part of the net. And I just love the old Glenn Anderson finish there. Hold that puck for that extra half second while you're going across, improved, make the goalie's job a lot harder, and then the whole top of the net is yours, and then put the puck there. And that's exactly what Jeff Skinner did. That was very, very satisfying to watch.
He is a goal scorer, and he
Proved
showed
it
it there. Did he ever? Bruce, my good thing is the second line, or the first line. Draisaitl, Podkolzin, and Arvidsson. This is a line that's we may see more of, and we may see it in the playoffs, because it's got a lot going on for that line. Draisaitl is playing the best hockey of his career, and the first goal was a showcase of that line. Although it was started off by Nurse and Kulak making a couple nice passes.
Yep.
In their own zone to get the rush going. And Arvidsson put it over to Podkolzin, who took it in, put it over to Draisaitl. Arvidsson then went hard to the net, which was a key aspect of the play because it opened up a passing lane for Draisaitl, who made a very nice pass. Perfect pass for Podkolzin. And that's where you expect the play to end. I mean, if we're completely honest, like for him to miss the shot or muff the shot, but he made a perfect one-timer shot, just a wicked harpoon right into the back of the net. Beautiful play. I think it's is that his fourth or his fifth goal of the year?
Fourth goal of the year. He had 3 in 3 games at the end of November.
Yeah.
And then he went 0 for December again after that. And I was just thinking today, it's time he scored again. I'm thinking he might get one tonight. It was just sort of this passing thought I had today. And sure enough, first minute of the game, he scored.
Interestingly, he's been in on a ton of grade A shots, like between the battles of screening the goalie, battling for the puck, passing the puck. He's been on a high rate of grade A shots all year long. And but hasn't been much of a scorer. It would be, I think, to hang on Draisaitl's line, you got to get about 15 goals, even if you're doing everything else really well. And he might get there. That's a tall order. He'd have to double his production for the rest of the year, pretty much, or better than that. But I think he's got a chance of doing that, getting about 15 goals. Anyway,
he's got 14 points, so sort of halfway to 30 points halfway through the year.
Yeah, and I mean and Arvidsson, he got 2 assists tonight. He really played well. He was in on 4 grade A shots at even strength. He was setting up all kinds of stuff, making all kinds of plays, and the goals and the points are going to come for him as well. He's got 11 points now in 24 games. They don't get a lot on the power play, either of them, because they don't get much power. Podkolzin gets no power play time. Draisaitl was his usual self this year. Draisaitl was his usual self this year, Bruce. He was fantastic this game. He's just he's become the dominant two-way player in the NHL, I think. And he set up lots. He was involved in all kinds of nice plays all night long, and not just the first goal, but the fourth goal. And the game was kind of curiously close at the end for the domination that the Oilers displayed. And he just took the game in his own hands. I mean, he got a pass from Arvidsson, and he took it from the Oilers' end all the way in and scored. And that was great to see. He just was not going to be denied. And I mean, Kelly Hrudey mentioned that Draisaitl, I think maybe Harudi himself had criticized Draisaitl for bad body language last year. And, that's a controversial thing. A lot of Oilers fans don't like to hear it, but I think Draisaitl has been guilty of it. Going to the bench kind of after a long shift or, after a hit. And, anyway, you've also talked about how he's not taking any penalties this year. What I do think we're seeing, Bruce, from Draisaitl is discipline, a concerted effort to get rid of the blemishes in his game. Like why, and the major thing that he's getting rid of is defensive mistakes. Like the bad body language, it's small. The penalties aren't that small because those were significant. But most significant of all, Bruce, is he's much better defensively this year. He's taking real responsibility. I think he's just at that stage where he's like, whatever it takes, he's going to do it. And he's not going to think about anything else. And that's what we see in him. I've never seen him so fast and agile on the ice as I thought tonight. He was just ripping out there, skating so well. So what can you say? This is a virtuoso, Hart Trophy winning performance from Leon Draisaitl so far this year. We're only, 38 games, 39 games into it.
Yeah, we can call it halfway, I think, safely, halfway, now that we've made it into 2025.
Yeah, but nonetheless, man, what a season from Leon Draisaitl, and good for him. He's shutting up all of his critics and all, more so all of the criticism, because I think everyone always acknowledged that he's a fantastic hockey player.
Yeah, well, he's certainly all of that. I think he's been cutting down his shift length.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just looking this up. I mean, he's still at yeah. I mean, the boys have been pushing minute 3 on their shifts, and of course, they just average everything. So all those 2-minute power play shifts are 2-minute plus.
Oh, really?
Power play shifts get rolled into the average shift length. So it's
hard to tell.
It's hard to tell, but I see less times where he's out there too long, and I'm saying, "Damn it, get to the bench, Leon! Get to the bench, Leon!" And I'm seeing way less of where he's out there too long. And then at the end of the shift, when he's out of gas, he tries to make some pass into, the part of the ice that he can't see, and then there's a jailbreak the other way, and he's gassed, and bad stuff happens. I haven't seen hardly any of that.
That's a good segue, Bruce, to your bad thing.
Yeah, my bad thing was a classic Leon Draisaitl giveaway for a goal, except for it wasn't Leon Draisaitl who gave it away. It was Kasperi Kapanen. And this was distressingly similar to the goal the Oilers coughed up last night, late in the second period, comfortably ahead in the game, just needing to play it safe and smart. And a risky pass made at the offensive blue line was turned into essentially a breakaway and a goal for the other team. Last night it was Connor Brown forcing a pass over to Evan Bouchard, who couldn't handle it. Tonight it was Kasperi Kapanen doing a spin around behind the back across the blue line to, was it Nurse? Never got to him anyway.
I don't even know who he was passing to. He didn't look, Bruce.
Yeah. Anyway, that puck's got to go into the corner 100 times out of 10. Just when you're ahead 3-0, you don't need to be taking those kind of risks. It's just, it's just not acceptable, frankly. And if you want to be a team that's going to, hang on to leads, one way to hang on to leads is not to be giving away easy goals, which is what happened there. And it was just, Kapanen had an okay game. He did, I got a beautiful assist on the one goal, but he gave it back there. He got a beautiful assist on the Seattle goal to sort of level his game sheet. And I will bet you he was even on the night. And he was 1 assist even. Because, of course, they didn't credit the assist on the going the other way, but he gave it all back in that one play.
Bruce, that is definitely in the running for the worst pass of the year by the Oilers, and maybe in the NHL. I count 5 things. There's 5 red flags on that pass. Okay? it's a 3-0 lead, right? So you should be more cautious, and it was incautious. It's at the offensive blue line where you don't want to make a turnover, right? Like that's one of the no-nos in hockey. Don't make a turnover at the offensive blue line. So that's 2. It's a backhand pass. It's always harder to make a backhand pass. It's the no-look pass, and it's a spinorama pass. 5 red flags on one pass. And I can't think of any others. Like there might, I guess if the other team, if it was the game-winning goal, like you'd add that as a kind of situational thing. Like it could be worse because it was a 3-0 lead, but he almost cost them the game, Bruce, with that one, because it allowed Seattle. It was late in the period. That's 6 things. So late in the second period, which we always talk about as a terrible time to give up a goal. So 6 things wrong with 6 red flags. That was horrible. I was surprised to see him play again. Honestly, I thought he might
the coach has got to, they got to iron that out. They're trying to win low-scoring games, so you got to get rid of that crap out of your game. And when somebody makes a mistake that bad, he, I'm not saying benched or press boxed or anything, but it needs to be said. And maybe it needs to be emphasized in the room that we don't like plays like this from anyone. And it happens to be that guy that's on the footage that's probably feeling his neck turn red on the 3rd row of the players meeting.
Oh my goodness.
But you don't have to name names. You just show the play and say, we don't do this on this team. This is not how we hang on to leads here. When we have a nice lead, we keep that lead by good, smart, intelligent puck management, which this wasn't.
Just imagine the groans in the room and the laughter because they won, right? Like all.
You do it after a win because then you can have a little bit of, you're not like heaping the guilt on the guy for costing you a game or anything, but that's how you can lose games. The game they lost in Anaheim had a couple silly plays in it that were not too different from that, I don't suppose. But anyway.
And my bad thing is another one, Bruce. It's in Seattle picked up even more momentum. So the Oilers are up 3-1, and they're doing a pretty good job. They gave up one screamer at the side of the net. You were referring to the play where Nurse got mugged by Montour in the corner, but then Nurse was a little late to the shooter. Stetcher allowed out the pass. I think it was Ben Meyer, the cross-checker on Derek Ryan, who got off this wicked shotting tight on Pickard. But the Oilers had done a pretty good job. And then 7.5 minutes into the third, there's an outside shot, which was a bit somewhat tricky, maybe-ish, because of a broken stick. And anyway, Pickard handled it awkwardly. Yeah, Pickard handled it awkwardly, change up. And he gave the ugliest rebound maybe of the year as well. Like they were 2 ugly goals against, because he just barfed it up to the guy who had a wide open net who deposited the goal, Jaden Schwartz. And there was no other mistakes on the play. It was just a really bad.
It was a non-dangerous situation that was suddenly a goal.
Yeah, 3-2. And, Seattle's got, they didn't get another grade A shot at that point after that. So the Oilers did shut it down, but
that was one close. Chance where Buddy had a quick stab at a puck in a slot and lifted it up and over the crossbar. That was, a different world. He could have put it in. Oh, that's
right. That was.
And I think Bjorkstrand fired one just wide.
He did.
Actually, you know what? That one, Bjorkstrand, I can't remember when it was. Pickard got a little tiny piece of it. They showed a replay. They showed a replay after, and it just got the edge of his blocker.
I think another replay shows it didn't, and the official score had it that it didn't.
Yeah,
so maybe, I think one replay it looks like it did, but it might be a bit of an optical illusion.
I'll try and find it.
I think there was another replay where you can see, he missed. Stetcher had made a bad pinch on that play, and they came in and they had kind of a little bit of an odd man situation. And Bjorkstrand ripped that shot, but I don't think it did. Anyway.
It was a dangerous look. So it wasn't like it was pitch perfect hockey down the stretch, but by and large, Edmonton controlled the last 10 minutes. Like by and large, they controlled all 60 of the minutes. They were the better team this game without a doubt, and richly deserved the win. And it's a little I don't want to say disappointing, but just surprising that they got as close as it did, because the Oilers were in command of the play.
Yeah. Such
Never
as hockey.
critique a win. Never critique a
Yeah.
win. The way they're
What's your
winning,
number?
David, we don't have much to talk about on podcasts. We're not allowed to critique wins because they're winning lots of games. Yeah, my number is 3. And 3 is the number of goals Edmonton seems to score in every game. Now, officially, you'll look in the score sheet and say, I got 4 tonight. What are you talking about, McCurdy? But they got 3 on the goalie and 1 in the empty net. And you know what? That's 8 games in a row now. 8 games in a row. The Oilers have scored exactly 3 goals on the other team's goalie. And they beat Boston 3-2. They got the 3rd goal in overtime to win that game. They got the 3rd goal in overtime to beat San Jose 3-2 after they tied it in the dying seconds. They got 3 goals to beat Ottawa 3-1. They got 3 in LA and got the lead, but they lost in overtime, so they got a point. They got 3 in Anaheim, got the lead, but they couldn't hold it and they couldn't score again. They lost 5-3. And now this week it's 4-1 with an empty netter. Last night 3-2. Tonight 4-2 with an empty netter. So they've had in the last 8 games 2 empty netters, and in 8 out of 8 games they scored 3. And their record with 3 goals on the board in those 8 games: 6 wins, 1 loss, 1 whatever, Bettman. In other words, they held the other team below 3 6 of the 8 times, and the real key number is the 2 or the 1 that they're giving up in these games. And it seems like the Oilers are good enough that they should score 3 goals most games, and they're doing that. They have enough sort of natural offense, and as long as they can mind their P's and Q's defensively, seems clear to me their objective is to keep the other guys 2 or fewer, and they've been doing it with not quite every game consistency, but they've been doing it a lot. And 6-1-1, you'll take 6-1-1 out of any 8-game stretch, but you sure would expect there to be a couple of 5-1s or 7-3s in there somewhere, but there's been nothing like that. It's a 3-2, 3-1 every game.
It's kind of reminiscent of the Oilers' big winning streak last year in January, December, January, February.
Yep. They
where
didn't
they just
blow
really
anybody
shut it
out,
down.
but they kept winning 4-1.
They don't seem to be yet. This is the first game. They were really in defensive sync here. They really were strong. And if this is a signal of how they're going to start playing, they're going to have up and down games. But if they can pull out this kind of defensive gem, let's say 1 out of 3 games, that'll be a really good signal for the Oilers. Yeah, it's an interesting team this year in a lot of ways, like seeing how these newcomers and depth players are working out it's an interesting. Skinner has struggled and finally got a goal. Stetcher's, and Emerson have been pretty good. They really do have a good puck moving defense. Bruce, my number is 14 out of 18 players kept a clean sheet at even strength. They're all game. There was no. So this is, I think, got to be a record. I think we've had other games where the Oilers have limited to the other team to 3 or 4 grade A shots, maybe 5. But I can't recall a game where the grade A shots they did have were usually 1 or 2 guys who made a mistake at most. And almost every player was near perfect defensively in a significant manner at even strength. It was just a fantastic defensive performance from the Edmonton Oilers. And last year I mentioned this quite a bit. To win the Stanley Cup, the Oilers have got to play strong defense. They've got to win it on defense. That's the thing they have to, they always had the attack, but they weren't going to win unless they figured it out. This new Oilers team is also figuring it out. There's a lot of smart defensive hockey players on this team. There's a lot. It's one of the things of having veteran players. They do know, they are wise in the ways of defensive hockey and about how important that is to winning. And we're seeing it from the top of the lineup from Leon Draisaitl, right to the bottom of the lineup to players like Stetcher and Emberson and the most of the wingers. Not all of them. But we're seeing it tonight. We saw it as the entire team, every single player. It was a really great defensive game, other than the two mistakes we already talked about. So again, this is how you win the Stanley Cup, and this is how the Oilers can win the Stanley Cup this year. And they're going to have to, come the playoffs, they're going to have to bring this game against good teams and avoid injury and get some goaltending. If they get all that, they'll win the Stanley Cup this year because they can score with anybody. So we can't speak to injury, or we don't know necessarily about goaltending. It's been up and down. But I think they can bring this defensive game. I think they can do that.
I'm just hoping McDavid's knee is all right after getting crunched into the boards about 2 steamboats after he passed the puck off again. At least they scored on that play, got the game winner, in fact, on that play. Though McDavid himself was the 4th player, he made the play that started it, but he was held off the score sheet 2 games in a row, which is very rare. And he came a lot closer tonight than he did last night, though, and just couldn't solve Grubauer.
Well, he'll be motivated against Boston, I guess. Is that the next game?
Next game is Boston. They got 2 days off, and they'll play Boston on Tuesday. So presumably they'll be flying across the continent tomorrow as opposed to doing it tonight, because there's no rush. Get into Boston, have a day to prepare, and then play them on Tuesday and hopefully carry on with the winning.
I wonder what the thinking is on that, if it's just better to get on the plane or not. Tonight in Seattle and fly all night.
Why take a red eye, though? There's no need. They're not playing. If they're playing on Boston even on Monday, they might think about it. Just get there and be there. But I think
because then you get there and they probably wouldn't get in till what, like
I'd rather have a good night's sleep tonight.
Probably, you're right. Yeah, I have no idea how they do it. What the thinking is. They got sleep scientists, don't they, on the team, and figure this kind of stuff out.
Yeah, they do. They do. Isn't that what that Mumford? He's probably an expert in that kind of stuff.
I don't know if he is on that, but he is an interesting character, that's for sure.
Oh.
All righty, Bruce. Well, that was an encouraging game. And final thoughts?
Back-to-back games, and they beat 2, West Coast teams 3-2, essentially 3-2 again, and they didn't blow either of them out, but they're finding more often than not ways to win hockey games and to get some goals and to limit their opponents, and they seem to be getting more comfortable. I think, playing down the stretch of games. So in the first part of this year, they did not do well in that situation, and they're starting to do a little better. Not perfect, always room for improvement, but I think they are improving.
How about that Darnell Nurse? I thought he was really good tonight, except for that one play that I talked about. But man, he's really moving the puck well.
Yeah, and my other thing is interesting about Derek Ryan.
You mentioned that earlier.
Bob Stauffer said this last week. I think I mentioned it last night, and it was after last weekend. He didn't play Saturday, but he played Sunday. And after that game, Stauffer said he'll be back in the lineup in Seattle. And at that point, he hadn't come out of the lineup yet, but sure enough, he came and he missed the next 2 games. But tonight he was in Seattle, in his home state. And Corey Perry was out. And for the first time all year, we had sort of the sensible situation of back-to-back for the 2 oldest guys. Each took a night in the press box, and neither of them had to play both. And Ryan played, I thought, for, the 8 minutes that he played, some pretty inspired hockey tonight. And he was certainly in the middle of things, and as usual, not backing down from anyone. And we'll see what happens. They got Noah Philp down there tearing it up a little bit again in Bakersfield. And they have 2 months before the deadline to decide what it is they need going into the playoffs. So if they think they might need a 4C, it might make a lot of sense to look at Noah Philp for a few weeks before the deadline to decide, is he the answer or not? And if he isn't, then you have to make a trade maybe. And if he is, problem solved. Well, what you don't want to do is wait till the deadline and say, well, we got Noah Philp, we'll bring him up, and then he fails the test, and then where are you? Because you got no plan B. So I wouldn't be shocked if there's a move in the coming weeks. And it may be that Derek Ryan was playing for his job tonight, and that was one of the reasons he played his ass off. But besides the usual reasons, which is he always plays his ass off. So nothing but respect for that guy.
Yeah. Here's what Knobloch said. He said, quote, "I think the best defensive hockey you can play is how you manage the puck," which is so true. Which is so true. I think our execution was really good, making a lot of small passes coming up the ice together, unquote. Just seeing if
no
Bob
mention of that
Kapanen
pass.
Yeah, well, Knobloch doesn't tend to do that, does he? That's not his thing.
No, he doesn't embarrass players. No,
not at all.
And I actually like that. So
yeah,
he's very soft-spoken. Him, that guy in Calgary, Huska. I really like him as he's such a soft-spoken, gentle fellow, and matter of fact, and he's not fire and brimstone. He's pretty laid back, and Knobloch is largely that. Like, he's very, very soft-spoken to the press. He's got some edge to him, but it's he's got a really sort of calm demeanor that he maintains seemingly at all times.
Well, he's got a good record. That's for sure, Bruce. He's doing something right. Yeah, the team just seems to be very disciplined, smart and disciplined under Knobloch would be the two words that I would use. So we'll see how far it takes him. The other player who's making it big in the minors is Matt Savoy, who's kind of on a 2-point game run, which is really encouraging. If a player is going to be a top 6 player in the NHL, on one of the top 2 lines, he might play a year or year and a half in the AHL, but usually it's about a year, if that, and usually it's about a point per game pace. So he's not quite there yet, but he's approaching that.
He's flying up the charts.
Yeah.
He has 12 in his last 6, 10 in his last 4 points. His last 4 games. 3 more points last night, including an assist on the overtime winner. 5-4 win over Henderson Silver. And the offense is really starting to come. And part of it's they got the line, Lane Peterson and Drake Kajula are his line mates at the moment.
Yes.
That was who they wanted. But Peterson got really banged up early in the season, and he just came back a few games ago, and it took him a few games. But now they're really starting to click. And I think, wasn't it Peterson who banged in the winner last night off a Savoy pass in OT? So,
well, Peterson and Kajula are 2 great AHL scorers, right? Those are guys like,
or NHL experienced players. Like, these are good line mates for a young fellow like Matt Savoy, and hopefully he is. And certainly the information coming from there is that he's turned it up a couple of levels. And suddenly finding the score sheet with regularity. So that's exciting.
My final thought is, Bruce, that the Oilers finally did what we were suggesting all along, which is in back-to-back games, you play Ryan in one and Perry in the other. Yeah. And they didn't have enough roster players earlier in the year to do that because they seem to be more worried about the cap at that point. They don't seem to be quite as religious about the cap right now, Bruce, about keeping the roster down to the barest minimum. Although, is it any different? Because I guess they just have the 6th defense. They called up
a 7th defenseman today, but they've had a 21-man sort of active roster throughout, and it was 12 forwards and 7D for quite a while. So they had no flex on the forwards, but now more recently it's been 13 and 6. As you say, this weekend, first time that they've actually split the back-to-backs between the 2 oldest guys, getting 1 each. And Perry, he played good last night. There was no reason to bench him other than rest him. And I think that's entirely, why the hell not?
Well, and the thing about Brown, this is the first time then they've had 13 forwards and 7D at the same time. And my speculation the other night is that maybe they're thinking Kane will be out all year, starting in the playoffs, coming back for the playoffs. And I think that's where this is trending. That's my gut
Changes
feeling.
the equation of cap space at the deadline, doesn't it?
It does, and it allows you to bring up an extra defenseman right now as well. So maybe that's what's going on. Alrighty, Bruce. Let's leave it there, and we'll be back for the Boston game. Thanks for talking tonight.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.